Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of A Time to Sew, in the second episode of our series following along with the book It Takes Two. This week we will be making this adorable little basket called Fat Quarter Bucket. And as the name suggests, it can hold things such as fat quarters, threads, and virtually anything you need it to, as you see here. This was honestly one of my favorite projects to do because it was so fun to make. Of course, there was a learning curve that was discovered afterwards, well, a few along the way. But I mean, that's sewing and that's what makes it fun. You'll see that red bucket I made at the beginning of this video, it's a lot sturdier than the blue one we make throughout. And that's because of that learning curve. I used some stronger fusible batting the second time around, which I preferred, but you honestly can do either way and it turns out amazing. Alrighty, so to start, you'll need 2 fat quarters and some stabilizer. You can also use scrap batting if you'd like, and that way you can quilt it and make a really cute quilted bucket. That's honestly something I think I'm going to plan on doing in the future. Now you're going to come with me and we're going to go pick out fabric from the shop. I think the pros of working at a quilt shop is that there are so many choices. The cons of working at a quilt shop, there are so many choices, and I am not a decisive person. Okay, so now that the fabric is actually chosen, let's go over to the ironing board and get our fabric ironed all flat and beautiful. So I like to use the Best Press. It is my favorite thing in the world to use when ironing. You just give it a little spritz across the whole thing, and once you iron it down, it's staying flat. It also gives it this little stiff texture to it that makes it a lot easier when piecing things. You'll then want to go over and start cutting your fabric and stabilizer. In all honesty, you can put all 3 together and cut all at once. You're going to want to cut 12.5 by 21 inches. And once those are cut, you're going to go and take your stabilizer and iron it to the exterior print that you're wanting for your outside of the bucket. Now we get to actually go and sew. Starting off, and you'll want to hear me out on this one because we're sewing and sometimes we get into a groove. You're going to want to use 1/2 inch seam allowance on everything. And again, you'll see me, I'm using 1/4 inch. That is because I already forgot. You can do either way and it works out perfectly fine. So just whichever way you choose, stick with it and keep going. Now, when we start sewing, you're going to do this on the exterior and interior of the buckets. So you'll do this twice. And I'm also going to be using this Bernat P08. It is brand new and an amazing machine. Super powerful, super strong. It's a single stitch only, but it is a really powerful, really strong machine. And I think it's one of my new favorites to use. I think I'll be using it a lot more in the future. So now again, when we start, this is going to be for both fat quarters. Just do them at separate times. You're going to take your outside piece and fold it right sides together and sew along the seam. Press the seams open. Center the seams and lightly press open. Then you're going to sew the bottom together and snip the sides to make it so where you can press those seams open as well. Now this next step took some trial and error for me. You'll see it took me a lot longer even when it's sped up. You're going to align the bottom seam and side crease and pinch them flat. Again, this took me a minute. It was a little frustrating, but you'll get there. Refer to the book back as much as possible. Look at the pictures until you get it the way you want it, because that's what helped me. Draw a straight line stitch across the ends of each point 2 inches from the top and sew along them. Trim 1/2 inch from where you just sewed. You'll do the same thing for the interior piece. Flip the exterior piece right side out and leave the interior one wrong side out. With right sides together, insert the exterior piece into the lining, matching the seams at the back of the bucket, and pin the raw edges together around the top. This pinning took me a second as well, but I was trying to get it super precise. Sew at the top of the bucket, leaving a 3-inch opening. This is where you're going to flip it open. Once you've done that, turn the bucket right side out through the opening and then tuck the lining into the exterior. Hold the seam allowance to the inside at the opening. And you can hand sew this part, or you can machine sew it like I do. And this next step is why I do that. We're going to stabilize the edges and top stitch a scant 1/8 of an inch from the top edge. And this is why I went ahead and just machine sewed that opening closed, because I just went around the whole thing. Next, you'll sew 1/2 inch from that first one you did. Then you're going to turn that top edge of your bucket down 2.5 inches or so, and you can press it open if you'd like. or flat. And there you go. You've made the cup of your bucket and your bucket is complete. Please send in your pictures of your completed buckets. I'd love to see them and post them on next week's page. And thank you so much for following along with A Time to Sew. And I hope you have a blessed week.